My name is Liam. When I was a child, people used to say, "He's such a quiet boy." But what they didn't know was that silence was not my choice, it was my protection. I grew up in a small house at the end of a lonely street. My father worked all day, and my mother, she tried her best to smile, but her eyes always looked tired. They loved me, I think, but they loved their problems more. Every evening, when other children played outside, I sat near the window and listened to the sound of my parents arguing. Their voices were sharp, like knives cutting through the thin walls. Sometimes, my mother cried. Sometimes, my father shouted so loudly that the neighbor's dog barked in fear. And I just sat quietly, hugging my knees, wishing I could disappear. One night, I covered my ears with my hands, but I could still hear them. "Why do you always spend money without thinking?" my father shouted. "Because I want our son to have a normal childhood," my mother cried. Then something broke, a glass, a plate, or maybe a heart. I didn't know. But I knew that after every fight, my world became smaller. At school, teachers called me shy. I wasn't shy. I was just scared that if I spoke, someone might yell again. I started writing in a notebook, my only friend. In that notebook, I wrote everything I couldn't say out loud. I wish my parents would stop fighting. I wish they would hug me once. I wish I could be happy without being scared. But notebooks don't talk back. They only listen, and sometimes, that's all a child needs. I turned 10 on a rainy Thursday. At school, my friends asked, "What did you get for your birthday?" I smiled and said, "I'll find out when I get home." But when I got home, my parents were fighting again. The living room was filled with noise, not balloons. There was no cake, just broken silence and angry words. I waited all evening, but no one remembered. At 10 p.m., I lit a candle from the kitchen, sat alone, and whispered, "Happy birthday, Liam." Tears fell on the small flame, and it went out. Maybe that was a sign that even light couldn't survive in my house. A few weeks later, my English teacher, Ms. Parker, asked me to stay after class. She looked kind, the kind that makes your eyes burn with hidden tears. "Liam," she said softly, "why don't you talk much?" I didn't know what to say. I looked at my shoes and whispered, "Because no one listens." She didn't say anything for a moment. Then she handed me a notebook and said, "Write for me. Tell me your story. I'll listen." That was the first time someone said those words to me, "I'll listen." So I wrote. I wrote about my house, my fears, my lonely birthday, my parents' voices. When I gave her the notebook, I thought she'd be angry or sorry. But she smiled and said, "You have a beautiful heart, Liam. Don't let pain silence it." That day, I went home with a strange warmth inside me, like hope. At the end of the school year, Ms. Parker asked every student to write a poem about home. Most kids wrote about warmth, laughter, and love. I wrote this. Home is not just walls and doors. It's where love speaks, not where it roars. It's where hearts are safe to stay, not where dreams fade away. When I finished reading it aloud, the class was silent. Ms. Parker's eyes were wet. She said softly, "That was beautiful, Liam." For the first time, I saw pride, not pity, in someone's eyes when they looked at me. Part 10, The Years After. I grew up, left that small house, and built a new life. I studied literature because words saved me when people couldn't. Ms. Parker came to my graduation, she hugged me and said, "I told you, your pain would become your power." She was right. I started writing stories about children who felt invisible, who wanted to be heard. And people listened. Sometimes, I visit my old neighborhood. The house is still there, smaller than I remember. But now, it's quiet in a peaceful way, not a painful one. My parents talk again, not like before, but with kindness. Time healed what shouting broke. Part 11, The Letter Found. One day, while cleaning my old room, I found something under my pillow, that same letter I wrote to God. It was still there, still unread. But this time I smiled. Because maybe God did answer me, not by bringing my father home quickly, but by giving me the strength to survive until he did. Part 12, What I Learned. Now, when people ask me about my childhood, I don't hide from it. I tell them. Yes, it was hard. Yes, it hurt. But it made me gentle. It made me listen. Because I know there are many Liams in the world, quiet kids sitting in noisy homes, wishing someone would just hear them. If you ever meet one, don't tell them to speak louder. Just listen softer. Sometimes, that's all a child needs. Final lines. Broken heart. Childhood pain doesn't fade, it grows with you, changes shape, and sometimes becomes the reason you care more deeply than others. Liam's story isn't about sadness, it's about survival. It's about how even broken children can grow into gentle adults who heal others, one word, one story, one act of kindness at a time.